How are you?
Well, look, I could not be more excited to see you all in person. I'm even more excited to host you in our office space, which is almost like I think 90% complete. Like we just need some furniture and stuff. And look, it's been a crazy journey this year for all of us, both in our businesses, in many of our personal lives. And look, I think everyone should just take a moment and breathe, right? Because the year is the year. And as they say, control the controllables. And one of the things I want all of us to think about is one, I know all of you individually, right? So I can tell you who's going to be worried to worry, who's going to worry unnecessarily, and realize that everything that you need is in the mirror. It's you. It's always been you. And I think one of the things that we don't give ourselves credit enough for who we are today, because who we are today is a place at some point in the past that we hope we'd be, right? So there's a past version of yourself that hope you'd be here today. And what I want you all to pull from that and realize is how strong you are, how hard you've worked, and how far you've come, and really use that as a measure of how far you can go. Because when you start thinking about life like that, it gets really beautiful. And the other thing that I want you to do is realize that every moment is a unique experience. And there's no such thing as failing unless you quit. Right. And, Matt sent that inspirational thing about Michael Jordan. And I'm like, God knows if somebody looked at our text messages together, they think we're both mental patients. But the reality is we all have this innate ability to push ourselves farther than we even think we can go. And all of us do it in different ways. So when you realize that, what do you have to be afraid of? It's like the FDR quote, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. But if you're really driving yourselves based on fear, all those things that you're fearful of is the reality that you're going to create, right? Because the way that our subconscious mind works, our subconscious mind's job is to bring to reality what we think about the most. That's why the words you say to yourself are really important. Your subconscious mind can't delineate the difference between a negative and positive thought. So I always joke around and I say, hey, I have a really good idea. And they're like, what's that? Let's say and think a bunch of negative things and hope something positive happens. Like, does that ever happen? No, it's not you, right? It's not any of you. And so before we get into the actual, I gave Stacy a sneak peek of what we're doing today. And she's excited. So one, we're going to go through some high level strategic planning. I'm literally going to show you today how to get anything you want in your business and get out of this old school goal setting method that we write shit down just to write it down and it doesn't happen, and show you how to really strategically align doing something. The second thing I want to talk about is ultimately how you can all get more out of each other. Our next retreat is going to be based on what we've learned in this group is this concept of collaborative learning. We know that David and I's best value is creating facilitated group discussions that start a topic, give a framework, and then have everyone weigh in on their value, send an awesome recap email. Like, how great was that last recap email, right? That was the best one we've ever had. And that was not my work, it was Callista's. So her enhancement to this program is only going to make it 1,000 times better. Right. So we have for next year, 80% of the time that I will spend will be on these programs. It is the thing I'm most excited about. It's where the majority of my time is going. And really the big thing is helping you guys do more work. Meaning, like, when we roll out our curriculum and anything, if we tell you to build a recruiting system, and Margo, I still have to text you today and you have to finish our conversation. So I have not forgotten about that. But I did go through all of your stuff and I have a whole list of bullet points and suggestions for you. But it's understanding and even talking to you is, look, there are two challenges that you guys face. Time, right? Here's the time to do something new, and 0 to 1. Everything sounds like a good idea when you're on these calls, but then when you leave your head, you kind of get in your own mental space and you kind of stuck and your businesses are all successful and you just stop. So for next year, anything that we talk about on these calls, we're going to make it for you and give it to you so the 0 to 1 is done. And at our retreat, we're going to kind of have a good preview of what this is, because a lot of the retreat is going to be you guys all sharing with each other and us asking you a lot of questions. God knows David and I like to ask questions, right? So there'll be minimal stuff that we'll be doing instructionally. And the whole goal of the retreat is, how do I get what's in somebody else's brain so I could do it too? So unless anyone has an objection to that, that's what we're going to do. And the part that I want to do with you, with David, is show you how to plan your year annually. Would it be helpful if I showed you how to do annual planning? Does anyone here know how to do annual planning? Does anyone here do annual planning? Megan Kottman, I would have thought would get a yes from you.
We do like
It could be better.
12 weeks at a time, and we'll like hardcore focus, and then we sort of lapse a little bit after that.
Sabbatical.
How else do people do planning?
My team's working on this today, Chirag. As a matter of fact, we are here doing planning for the entire year with my team. So this dovetails perfectly.
Anyone else? Margot, how do you do planning? You and Kevin, this would be an interesting answer from each one of you.
I mean, I guess I don't, there's different definitions for planning. We have like business planning, right? So for the whole year, and then there's financial planning, which Kevin and I just did today. So I don't know if that's what you mean.
So and I'm not going to get too much into this. There's personal planning, there's professional planning, there's strategic intent, which we're going to go through today, right? And look, the whole goal of all of this is to simplify this, right? And how does it simplifying it? You need a goal. You need to understand your present state, your future state, the action items in between, and we'll do some live examples. And then everything you do that needs to be broken down into your schedule, right? So if you have an annual goal, do you know what an annual goal is? It is an annual promise you're making to yourself. Do you know what a time block is? Is a promise you make to yourself to do something during a certain time. And if you can't keep your promises to yourself, what great things do you really think will happen? See, I want to teach you all how to become in the pattern recognition business. Do you know what the pattern recognition business is? There are a couple different patterns you need to create. Number one, we are all in sales, correct? So the first pattern we need to recognize is when we, like Matt, I set the time and I try to do it. Well, what we need to start cataloging is, number one, what stops us or what gets in the way of us doing these tasks. Because essentially the way you run your business is you're spending on money, time on what I assume is the most valuable task, right? So number one, you need to write down what gets in the way. Number two, you need to start write down what are your objections? Like, what do you hear from clients that stops you? Number three, what are your clients' fears and concerns? Do we hear a lot of fears and concerns today? Yeah. Number four, what stops you from consistent client outreach? Don't worry, everyone's gonna get a recap email, so you guys are good. I see Calista typing away. Number five, where do you fall short on your pitches with buyers and sellers? So think about this, right? Now, as we start doing this is a daily thing, right? Because you're all on appointments, you're all talking to people, you're all breaking the promises apparently you make to yourselves. Once we start cataloging this, we understand what I would call behavioral loops, right? And they're essentially what are our avoidance patterns. I could see by looking at all of you, this is a little different than what you're normally used to hearing. Like, I'm getting really deep into psychology today. So when you identify avoidance patterns, what you're really looking for is, Matt, I'll use the example. Matt, unmute yourself.
Yo.
So you make a time block, right? Like, give me an example of an actual example of what gets in the way.
I think, little task or team issues or managing my people a lot of the times and making sure they're running, approvals of marketing things, marketing items. The problem with me sometimes in my team, it kind of comes it bottlenecks a lot. Like, oh, we need Matt, or talk to Matt, Matt's approval, Matt's this. And meanwhile, I'm trying to, sling some deals or trying to get in the sales flow. And I feel like sometimes it's even mentally, talk about psychology. I think when you get distracted, I feel like an ops brain or a management brain is different from like a sales flow. Like, I'm a call guy, like I like to walk, I like to get moving, I like to get into it. And if I'm in that, and it's almost like working out for me, like some days I'm just like, I love it, but it's like once I start doing it, I really love it. right? It's like endorphin, it's like dopamine for me, like getting on the phone and calling, getting into it. But it takes me a little bit to get warmed up. And if I get distracted very easily, it's hard. Or if there's like these little requests. So there's a million these, like, it's like paper cuts. It really,
Love it. So here's the thing, Matt, you want to make a list, right? We start talking about patterns. Those aren't avoidance patterns, right? Those are interruption patterns, right? So Calista, we'll put avoidance patterns and interruption patterns. So you want to identify what these patterns are. When you start seeing them over and over again, every pattern has a present state and a future state. Now, let me pull up a screen and let me draw this all out in a diagram. Calista, you want to send me the doc in the chat that you're putting all these notes in so I can just stick it in the table, stick it in there. This will be a really fun exercise for you. And at the end, you're going to go, holy shit, this is really easy. Because an interruption pattern, or what stops you from doing it, an avoidance pattern is, Matt's a call guy. Some people don't like calling people, or some people don't like doing certain types of tasks. So they get to the task, they then feel uncomfortable, and then they get in their email, then they'll do this other thing and this other thing. And you need to be able to recognize and document these patterns, because when you document them and you are aware of them, then when you start, you're like, wait a second, I'm going through this loop, I need to stop now. But if we're not documenting and really planning these things purposefully around these 5 areas, how do you really expect to scale and grow? All right.
While Chirag's pulling that up, I see with a lot of clients, there's 2 places in general where we go wrong. First is we're not clear about our goals and intentions in the first place because we didn't think about it clearly enough to come to real clarity about it. Secondly, we may have a goal and we may even have a plan, but we don't execute the plan. We don't follow through. Right. So when he's talking about patterns, it's a really relevant question. Is my struggle that I have a clear goal, but I don't end up doing the things that I need to do to achieve it? And if so, what's getting in the way? So what we're talking about here is bringing a lot more awareness to what goes on that takes you out of a pattern that you have previously identified as the desirable one for you to be in to achieve what it is you want to achieve. And in a nutshell, this is where so many agents go wrong, right? They have some ideas, they want to achieve one thing or another, but it's the actual daily execution that breaks down day after day after day.
All right, here we go. We got this all set up now. All right, Matt, unmute yourself. We'll do a few examples there now. All right, so give me one specific example of like an interruption pattern.
Like today, Dom's at the office, my boy, I love him. I'm trying to be a good teammate. He doesn't come all the time, but he just pops in. He's like, oh, what's up with this? I'm in my own, what I'm trying to handle. I got my own to-do list. And he's like, hey, what's up with this listing? Did you call, what's up with that lead? What's up with that business track? He starts like rattling off stuff, just popping in, which is, and I'm trying to be a good team member. So I'm like, I don't want to ignore him or be like cranky or whatever. So I end up,
So that's your present state, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what's going on now. In a perfect world, what would you like the future state to be?
I think probably, maybe we set up more times consistently to go over what, we need to go over together.
Okay, so ready? Here's your future state. A clear outline on what is important to team members based on their ongoing requests, setting up weekly one-on-ones to review anything that is important to them. All right. So what is your action item? Have a conversation with team about setting up one-on-one appointments and expectations of what is urgent versus important and not time sensitive. You want to build a culture of time management through proactive planning and meetings. Each agent must send over agenda items the previous day for you to be prepared for the meeting. There's your future state, right? So your present state is, and your future state is setting up the weekly meetings to review what's important to them. Then what's your action item, right? Like this is what you have to do to fill the gap. So you can literally look at these interruption patterns, and for every pattern that you identify, this is what you do. And now you know in your schedule, I'm going to schedule time to build out this structure. I'm going to schedule time to go over this with my team. And now I need to schedule one-on-ones with them. Right? So schedule time to share with the team the new structure. Schedule time for one-on-ones. And if you look at this, the time that you spend proactively doing this will be a lot less than the reactive time that you'll spend. You'll spend a lot less time in these meetings than you will just dealing with their stuff because you're stopping what you're doing.
Correct. And it also creates much more predictability for your team members. So they're more comfortable knowing that they don't have to bring something to you right now. They know it's going to be addressed a day, 2 days later or whatever.
All right, so let me open this up now to everybody else and thoughts, comments, questions, concerns. Interesting.
I mean, I'll just say it's really good. I mean, I know I'm kind of talking a lot, but I think agents, we like to like, which you hear all the time, Chirag, it's like, we like to complain about our present state. We don't even know what the future state that we want is half the time. Like we need someone like to lead us there. And then we definitely don't want an action item to actually solve the problem. We just want to complain about it because we're stressed out. You know, I mean, it's like the agent, cycle of mental illness in a way. But I think that actually, it feels good. Even just doing that one item with you feels like I feel less overwhelmed just thinking about it. So I think it's really great. And I think it's really well structured. I'm excited to run through it.
I think Chirag, predictability, whether it's in sales or life or anything, my kids, how I parent, anything. If I can be more predictable and I can just say, stick with the plan versus try and go off script, it makes my life so much easier.
Yeah, and during our one-on-one today, we talked about business planning and the fact that I've done it and never look at it. And that's just such a waste of time. Or like previously, I would just like pick a number of what we wanted to produce and like that just was so meaningless. And then, but if we have like a specific goal, because I'm sending this to the team because I asked them to put their 3 goals together, top 3 goals. And like one of my goals is to hire a new marketing person. My marketing person is mediocre at best. And so like on our call today, we did like present state, not, mediocre, doing the job, but not.
Do you mind if I share it, Stacy?
No, that's fine. I could, good, because I can't remember what we wrote, but I feel like now I know exactly what I'm looking for and exactly what I'm going to do in 2023 when I'm ready. And like everyone knows I like an action item, and that like it helps me. It does. Like I know exactly what I'm going to do.
Right here, hold on. By the way, this you can use for any area of your business: sales, marketing, hiring, onboarding. This is how Fortune 500 companies do like actual strategic planning. Okay, so, all right, now you can walk them through this.
So my present state, my person is just like reactive. Like I tell her what to do and she does somewhat do it, but then she doesn't communicate to me that she's done it. And then I ask her and she's actually done it, which I think is ridiculous. Like she's actually done the work, but she doesn't tell me she's done it. So then I have to ask again. Just lack of enthusiasm around the work. It's just like, she's just not really a marketing person. She's really more of an executor, but is really bad at communicating. And it's like driving me crazy. So my future state is I'm going to hire someone eventually when I'm ready to make the plunge to pay more, because I know I'll have to. Someone who prides themselves on being creative, sharing ideas, wants some autonomy, Because I'm ready to give someone autonomy. I'm not a control freak anymore. I used to be. But if I can trust someone, I realize I'm fine. And I want someone to want that autonomy and to who can drive the conversation and the results and be a good communicator. That's key for me. And check in and tell me what they're doing. And then the action items, I'm going to create the job description, which I already did. Write out the compensation, which I'm too nervous to do. An onboarding plan, which I suck at. Areas we want creativity around, new reporting structures.
This is the most valuable one here.
Yeah, so this I have done at least one of this when I'm hiring, is basically like come up with things that you're going to give someone to do in an interview and then see how they do before you hire them. Like you give them an actual job to do, and see what they do, which I've not done often, and that leads to poor hiring.
So I'm going to pull this down for a second. And here's what that's called. That's actually called situational hiring, right? And you're not exactly looking at exactly what they do because they haven't been around you long enough. They don't have the right context, right? It's not like we're writing like a detailed, like creative brief for them to do. But what you're really looking through is, how do they think through the project? How engaged are they? Most importantly, what questions do they ask you? Are there someone that just really, for a fact that this person has no idea about your business or anything besides what they read online? If they ask you 0 questions, that they're just going to go rogue, right? If they ask a lot of questions for details and like literally like, you kidding me? Like I might as well have done the job for you. They're not like the right type of hire. Right. So you're looking for that balance of what's that experience you like working with the person and working through something. So this is another great example of present state and future state and everything else and onboarding. And when you're doing this and you're really doing strategic planning, like as bad as Stacy is onboarding, she could spend time, or we could do it on our coaching calls, working through this stuff. So the person is set up for success when they join. Calista could probably tell us more about onboarding plans than I ever could, but, right, Calista? Ask Calista if she got an onboarding plan. No. Right. So, but also on the same thing, if you're not going to give people onboarding plans, you have to give them at least a month to 6 weeks till they just kind of learn it intuitively on their own. And you can't get upset with somebody when things don't go well all the time because it's on you. In the end, great leadership comes down to one thing. Everything comes down to the man in the mirror. Woman in the mirror, right? Fran, you and I are a lot alike. Like our on board, like it's just follow me around, learn as we go. It's fine. I have understanding of that expectations. Now write this all down. How many people feel the learn as they go is their style of training and teaching? Raise your hand. Megan has onboarded. Megan and Jillian definitely have like detailed onboarding plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
100%. So listen, the best question, I learned this, actually, I'm going to steal more of Calissa's lines. Best interview question I've ever heard for hiring anyone. Do you work well in ambiguity? So for everyone that raised their hand, like, yeah, I'm bad at training people, you need to find people that work well in ambiguity.
Yeah.
That's such an important point in all this, everybody. It may be your way to just have somebody follow you around, but that's like expecting the other person is in the same place as you, right? And so, whether would you do that with a client? Would you say, this is the only way I work and I don't care how you want somebody to work with you, you're going to do it this way or not? Probably you have some leeway in there to adjust your style to some extent for clients. Obviously, you can go too far with that. We've talked about that before. But, what we're talking about here is the balance that you have as a leader. Chirag was talking a minute ago, looking in the mirror. If you look in the mirror and you assess to what amount of my time am I in reactive kind of activity, like Matt was saying before, versus proactive. Because if you're in reactive activity all the time, then you're not really leading. You're just kind of like responding to whatever the world is giving you. It's an uncomfortable place to be. You're playing defense and you don't want to be there. From a leadership point of view, setting up a simple process like, present state, future state, steps I need to take, and then follow the plan helps you stay out of that reactive mode. And what we see in so many agents is even the successful ones is they're in reactive mode all the time. And by the way, Matt, it's not just agents. Like there are huge swaths of the business world that are caught in the same place. Anybody in project management can fall into that trap. I was in the airline business the first part of my career, and people who are in operations, it's like as soon as there's a snowstorm, like you got to jump into action, but it's totally reactive. You guys have the opportunity as business owners and in these conversations that we have and the coaching that you do with us to get on the other side of it and be in planning and pre-execution, if you will, rather than reactive mode.
It's true.
Now, does anyone want to share an example to work through it here as a group?
An example of something that we're struggling with as far as our goals for next year?
You know what? You can give me a goal. Like, I think this would be good. Give me a goal for next year and I'll show you how to do this with a goal.
Okay. I'd like to recruit some new agents to our team.
Okay. How many agents?
I would say 2.
So the present state is needing to recruit 2 new agents. So the future state, right? Who you want to have in detail who these agents are, what they're like, how they align with your value proposition. Like your future state says, like, I want 2 agents with 4+ years of experience. They live in these communities and like everything else, right? So this would actually go into building out like an agent persona. So you understand who you are. And then the action items essentially would be, what are all the things that you're going to do in your schedule and the different ways you're going to find these people?
Okay.
Right. So the first part is here I am today. This is where I want to be in the future. And now here are all the things that I need to do to get there. And then whatever's in that action item, you need to break it down into time blocks into your calendar so that you can actually do the work. So here, let me put this in here for you guys. All right, let me share my screen, Allison, so I can walk you through like an actual example.
Welcome, Parsa.
Pasa.
How you
Were
doing?
you at the holiday? Were you at your holiday party last night? I heard Ed D'Ambrosio was wild.
I
It was
did
his
that
bar
for a little
mitzvah.
bit.
Yeah, it's bar mitzvah. That's exactly how someone described it. All right, do you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
So when you start looking at an agent persona and you're recruiting outside of Compass, you want to know what companies are they working for? What are they looking for in the next team that they can't currently get where they are? What are their expectations of what the team will provide? What are their expectations of the team leaders and expectations of the mentorships? How many years have they been in business? How many transactions have they completed? Core strengths, weaknesses. What are they excited about what your team will provide? And then this is what we provide. What are their values? What are their views on coaching and personal development? I'm going to bold this one. If you find agents that don't value some form of personal development and they're self-employed people, what does that tell you about them?
Don't want to grow.
Don't hire them.
Yes, exactly. X. How do they handle feedback? What is their current pay structure? What are their expectations of commission? Then if you're giving out leads, these are the leads and these are the splits you need to do. Then if you have team members, right? You need to build out a little chart like this that shows them exactly what they get in the exactly the value that they get. Because what they really want to know is, what am I getting from your team that I'm paying a split in for that I can't do on my own? Like, I don't know, Stacy could do something like this because she has a similar structure when she adds her team members, right? Listing lead, Fran, you can do this too, supporting agent, team admin. And this outlines all the parts in a transaction. So at no point is it unclear what they do, what you do, what your staff does. right? Because one of the things is people do ambiguity. Oh, we offer admin support. And then they have a junior agent that joins your team that thinks their assistant is their assistant. Anyone's had that ever happen to them?
Yes.
And this is what this has to do. The supporting agent will be responsible for, you put the bullet points in. Like, this is how you create specific training around only their responsibilities and the goals to teach and the parts that they're responsible for, the exact way you do it. Compensation structure per agent productivity. Clear on exactly what you want to offer an agent and his benefits for being part of your team. Now, do you think this will help you all build better personas and attracting the right people?
Mhm.
Allison, is this helpful to you?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to figure out, and maybe this is just a conversation that we have, is like in the identifying the persona. Like, I had a conversation with an agent this week, and I know that we have a lot of value that we can offer, but she's running very lean because she's doing things on her own. So she doesn't have all this support and all this overhead. But and she knows she's maxed out, but she's afraid to like step away from, she's doing pretty well by herself and she's getting all that money herself. So she's trying to decide, is it worth me giving up some of what, is it worth her giving up some of what she's getting to potentially grow and get more leads, or should she just stay where she is? I guess that's, and I didn't have an answer for her.
So literally, I would go through the same exact exercise. Say, where are you today? Where are you looking to go? And what do you think is missing? Have her self-identify what all the things are, and then say, look, here are the resources we have, and make it very clear what you offer. And I'd turn it back to her and say, it's a really simple decision. Do you think having these things and the benefits of them, the time, the leverage, the brand, will get you this goal? If it'll get you this goal, it should be something you explore. If it doesn't get you the goal, then it doesn't make sense for you. Mm-hmm. And you'll see right then and there if she identifies with the value.
Right.
Do you think it's worrisome to start with someone who's already like, is that like a recipe for disaster in a sense? Like, have an agent that's already producing on their own, who's like very focused on the split, can that work? Maybe
that's kind of what I thought it would be great, because it would be like almost a company buying company, to expand, because she's got market share in an area that I want to grow our market share. But then maybe you do have to start with someone who's newer, and that's the only way it can really work.
And that was a good question. I don't know the answer. Majority of my people I've just trained, and
right. Same here.
But I'm wondering, does anyone have anyone like that who was already somewhat established and came and it worked?
No.
I like to grow. I like to grow from the draft, as they say. I like to build them in-house. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I mean, that's what we've done.
I've heard so many times where you get these people that have this connection. I have this connection. I have this and I have that, and I feel like it's more they're trying to use me than they're trying to bring to the team. And I feel like they're trying to it depends on the person, but I think it depends on just, Chirag knows as someone I've kind of dealt with recently that I've made work, but they came in with, I have all these contacts and this and that, but it's like, I like some of these, guys that I'm making, or guys that are loyal to me that come up that I can build, and, that hunger, like a 25-year-old, I'll take a 25-year-old kid all day that I can shape that wants to go to war every day with me. So just my take.
One thing that you should keep in mind when you bring somebody in from somewhere else, if you're evaluating their previous performance, you have to recognize and remember that performance was created not strictly by that person, but within a larger context of the team that they maybe were working with at the time, the way the market was at the time. There's a whole lot of stuff that's outside of that person that may have been partially responsible for their level of performance. We see so many people taking somebody from another team, because so-and-so said she was good, or she had good performance last year and she got on my team, it just wasn't the same. and you're bringing them into a new context of your team where you have different values, you have different intentions, you have different goals, you have different ways of working with your people. And so it's not a simple, she did well over there last year, therefore she's going to do just as well with me or better. You know, you have to recognize that there's something in there that, you know, is external to the individual, and you have to account for that.
Can I add something here, Allison? You can mute yourself. Look, you got to remember this. When you're having these conversations, you want to talk a lot less than they do. If you're talking the majority of the time, you're done, right? Because then you're trying to persuade them. They have all the control. So if the woman's run lean and all this other stuff, you could say, if you ever consider joining a team, what benefits would you be looking for? How would it help you? How would this be different? Like, what would you want on a team, or what could you get on a team that you feel that you can't do on your own? Why are you even considering this? Right. And in the beginning, you start all these conversations and say, look, you know, I really admire the work you do. I think you could potentially be a great fit, but you know what? This might completely not be right for you. And that's okay. And it could be right for you. That's okay. And you just start a conversation like that. Yeah. And
I
so
mean, it's funny because she came to our, like, I'm sitting in my office and she comes in the office sometimes, and she popped in and, like, I swear to God, 4 times was like, I just miss camaraderie. She used to be on another team that had a very different culture than the way I run my team. And 4 times she came in and basically said, like, I'm lonely and I want camaraderie, and like, I like your team. And Ginge was like, she wants to be on the team. Why don't you go talk to her? So I did. But then when I had the meeting, she was kind of like, well, what can you do for me? Because I'm doing fine by myself. So I don't know, maybe it's just not the right time for her. Maybe she's too far advanced in her thing and she's happy being maxed out at what she's doing. And I have to look for more of someone who's got a little experience, but not as much as her.
So recruiting we'll do a whole thing on recruiting. And if you want that to be part of the retreat, everyone can say yes, and we can do a whole thing on recruitment, right? But we're scheduled to do it in February of next year. So if you want to wait, you can wait. If not, you know, we're always happy to put it together for you sooner. But here's the thing. We have to stop selling ourselves to other people. And Stacy and I were actually talking about this on our call today, is what you feel you give somebody is perceived value. What they want and what they'll use is their actualized value. Same thing when you go on a pitch. The only thing you really need to talk about is what the client cares about. That's the only thing. Outside of that, they don't care. This is, again, a good exercise, but the reason I wanted to walk Allison through this too is, do you see now all the little nitty gritty things that go into doing this the right way? And like how she has to think about where she is now, where she wants to go, what are the action steps? And then she has a whole bunch of different things to do in her schedule. She has to go through her value proposition. And look, here's the thing. When you fill this doc out and then you look at what you offer, you'll know exactly who the right people are. Look, there's a saying in life that I love. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up anywhere. If you don't know who you're looking for, you'll end up with anyone.
So when the value proposition we put together actually was very pivotal for me to just know what my value is. It didn't necessarily help me know who I want to hire, but it at least helped me understand that how much I offer and what I offer and why someone should want to be on my team. But I'm not sure it helped me figure out who that next person should be.
And it shouldn't,
Someone
because
grateful,
where you
someone
are,
grateful, of course.
your value proposition may be accurate at a particular point in time, but 2 months before that, 2 months after that, you might be hiring people who are completely different people for completely different roles for completely different reasons. And so obviously everything is always going to be a case-by-case basis when you're bringing somebody in. Doesn't mean value prop's not important. It is. You need to know what it is you want to offer. But Chirag's absolutely right. If you go into an interview looking for ways to connect It's like you go on a date with somebody, a blind date, and you're just like looking for what you have in common. Oh, you like wine? I like wine. You know, you like golf? I like golf. Okay, let's go do it. You know, it's not the right way. If you've been divorced 4 times, you're more likely to be a little more cautious next time to say, like, how can I disqualify this person rather than qualify this person to join, right?
So I want to leave you guys with a few thoughts, unless anyone has any questions. I don't want to give more information for the sake of giving more information. Look, this is a simple method for you to strategically think through any action of your business. You need to identify where you go and have very clear objectives of where you want to go. And there's a difference between a goal and an action, right? I want to recruit 2 agents. Who are the agents? What's important? Like, we all need to understand like the work that goes into getting the right thing that we want. And that's what all those action items are. And then you look at the action items and you just simply prioritize them in your schedule. Your schedule is if you look at goals, if you have an annual goal of doing, I don't know, let's say 24 deals from your past clients, what are you doing every single day throughout the entire year to get there? And that's how you map out your calendar in advance. So we'll get into it. I'm going to look into buying like big calendars or something that we could all bring to Nashville and like fill out together. It'll be fun. So think about this. This is a simple way to do anything. Who here is going to actually do this? I see a couple of you not raising your hands. I'm looking at you. Allison Ziefert, Margot. Oh, Margot raised her hands. Allison, where are you stuck?
I'm confused.
Okay, good. Where are you confused?
So I
That's
see,
because hiring sucks.
yeah, hiring sucks. I agree. But we did actually use the last 2 people that we hired. We did use hey, I want you to do this exercise just to see how they did. And it was really good. So come up with an idea if you're interviewing someone and make them do a little task and see what they come up with. I think it's very telling.
Called situational hiring.
Sorry, what?
It's called situational hiring.
Yes. So I think what I'm confused about, I see your chart, but how do you decide, like, I mean, I've reviewed our marketing plan and I sort of know where we want to focus this year, but I don't really have like specific goals other than like, let's grow the volume by this much money.
Okay, great. Let's grow the volume by this much money, right? Then you're going to want to break down what are the lead generation sources, ideally what percentage you want to come from each, and then what are the supplemental actions that'll make sure that you hit each goal in each quadrant.
Okay.
This is why this is why that people have challenges with goal setting, because look, you have to understand where you are, what your goal is, and then what are the action items. And then if it's an annual goal, it's an annual promise to yourself. So then you need to carve out time every week throughout the year to work towards that goal, or it's never going to happen. So if you think about it, there's a triangle, right? And I've been using this golden triangle word a lot lately. And the golden triangle is there's mindset coaching, right? How do I think through these tasks in a different way, in a way that will allow me to be more strategic and apply strategy, right? Like, what's my mindset around it? There's performance coaching. How do I get myself to perform and do all these things I might feel uncomfortable doing? And then the third part is like the tactical coaching. Here are the actual action things, the buttons I hit, the emails I send, the calls that I make, and the actions. And you have to build out that triangle, right? You need to make sure you have the right mindset and you're thinking through this in a macro, not a micro. You need to have the performance coaching. You need to lock in your calendar the times to do it. And then you need to have the tactical coaching to really have actual things to do during that time that drive to that goal every week. And then the fourth part that's in the circle, you have to measure what you're doing. Interruption patterns, avoidance patterns, and start understanding and really becoming business owners versus just having a service. Because the more you track data, you can make decisions, right? I always say my new quote is, the sole purpose of data and documentation is to be able to make future decisions from it. That's the whole point of writing something down, so I can make my next set of decisions from it. So if you start simply like doing these exercises, looking at those 5 areas, your business will become more intuitive and it'll work like artificial intelligence. It'll have a base algorithm of where you are today. And the more information you get it, the more proactive you could grow. And this is a way to continue growing quantifiably, like week after week throughout the year. Because literally, as soon as you're identifying these patterns, you can just go through this exercise and get the new future state done, put the action items there, the Stacy Frolic rule, get it implemented, and that's it. So everyone put their accountability of what they're going to do between this week and next week in the chat. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, 7, 8. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 answers. Jesus. Marco, yes. Angela, Stacy, Parsta, Matt, Kevin, all the men here. I love how Marco and Kevin divide and conquer.
2 heads are better than 1.
So Margo, do you know what I want you guys to do while they're typing this in? We're going to share this agent persona thing out. Calista will get this out tomorrow. I want you to fill out your ideal persona, and then you can actually look at who you have on your team to who you want, right? And the other things you're going to want to look at is their per agent productivity, what that aligns with when you fill out the form, like what you want, what you have. The best equation in the world, remember, on a team is addition by subtraction. Is there anyone that didn't put a goal? Matt. Parsa, I don't see anything for you. All right, so ready? Matt is fucked. Excuse my language. Dude, this is crazy. I want a new financial model, commission structure, increase cash flow, create more opportunity to grow and scale, and provide better growth plans for agents. Dude, this is like a gazillion different things. I read more Matt Breitenbach than I do anything in the world. Matt sends like these, like literally, it's like the preamble to the Constitution. Like if he put all of his docs together, it'd be like reading a book, and it's amazing what's in there. But for Matt, I want you to break down what is your most important thing. So for what we're working on is finances, right? So that's what you want your present state of your finances to be. The future state we talked about, the weekly reviews, the P&Ls, and what action items you need to do. That's like, think about this now when you're doing one of these things. Sorry for cursing. Is that I just saw that. I was like, Jesus,
that's why I need you.
What's that?
That's why I need you, and that's why I love you. So
yeah, dude, you got to
keep me, just bring really right through it, man.
Cut it. So look, it's figuring out what's going to make the most impact, right? And starting there. We all have this innate ability for more. And on this same flip side, the simpler it is, the more we resist it. Oh, this is too simple. My favorite things are these things are really basic, so I don't think it's for me. And I guarantee you, if I had time, I would hunt every one of these people down. But you don't have any of this stuff. And the reality is you have just no discipline. You don't want to do it. So you think if you write more stuff, it's complicated for you. We need to get used to the art of simplicity.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Otherwise, you'll never do it.
Exactly.
Well, that's the risk of what Matt has there. That's right. He's got a lot of things underneath him, and he can come away with none of them.
Yep. Exactly. All right, everybody. We're going to be cranking on Nashville. If you're staying, when you know the dates you're staying, please email Calissa. I know a number of you have said they're getting in early. A number of you are staying in late. So if we have groups of people staying, I'll stay through Friday as well too, since it seems like a group of you are. And like, look, we can all hang out as humans in the town of Nashville after. So it'll be fun. All right, everybody. With love in my heart, I love you all. And I will see you guys all next week. We all have our items. Calissa will get this email out, and just Calissa, great to have you here and the support you provide. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I read that email, her recap, I was like, really, really, really excited. I'm like, did you transcribe this? She's like, no, these are the notes I took. I'm like, wow. So look, the goal of this now is to take what's in the recap email, implement it, get things done, and each week keep growing.
Sounds
That's it.
like a plan.
Stacy Frolic rule, you got to do something every week. All right, everybody.
Bye,
By the way,
everyone.
before you guys leave, by the way,
Yes.
a second, before you guys leave, I'm gonna be sending out a form just to collect all the information about the travel. So I'll reply to Chirag's email. So you can just click that when everything is booked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.